which is a reference.
Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hold on, just a minute. Good Monday morning from the office. I'm your host, BKP. We are North Georgia's only live online morning show. I don't know how that sounds, Amanda. Only live online morning show. I think, but that makes us number one.
It sounds important.
Important?
Sounds important to me.
Important. Okay. We are the number one online live morning show. I'm going to say in all of Georgia. I'm just going to take a chance. I mean, Trump does it. Trump just says anything. The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, will just say anything. I'm your host, BKP. Welcome this Monday morning. We've got a lot going on. At 8:10 this morning, folks, we will have Georgia Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle will be on with us for about 15 minutes before they start the opening day down there in Atlanta of the 2018 session. What we're going to do, we're not going to go to commercials, so don't leave us. So what will happen is as soon as Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle calls, he is also a candidate for governor. As soon as he calls, Amanda will give me a signal. We will just go to what's called our show card for not even 15 seconds just to make sure I have Lieutenant Governor's earpiece volume correct, and then we'll bring him right in, so don't leave. So we're not even going to go to commercial. 8:02. At 8:30, as soon as the Lieutenant Governor's off the line and we come back for our first break, we're going to talk about the Georgia 2018 legislative session and some of the things going on. But I thought it was important. Amanda, you need to pay attention to this. Now, you know, President Donald J. Trump, said that he would put a 25% tariff on steel and 10% on aluminum. We're going to talk about that later. But I was thinking to myself, what if the president wanted me to be on his steel and aluminum authentication task force? Like, what if I got called up for a task force? You know what I mean, Amanda? Would I be prepared? So I came in this morning to make sure I had my certificate of inspection, my official micrometer. Now this, I will be able to test steel. This is what this is. This is my micrometer. I've had it for years. It's calibrated. I have the certificate of authenticity here. And President Donald Trump, if you need me to go out and check Chinese steel, I have my micrometer ready. It's ready to go. Believe it or not, it's a very expensive little tool. I've had the micrometer for, I had this in my past life. I'll tell you a little story about it later. But I wanted to make sure I could actually go out, I could check steel. 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum, and they are going nuts left and right. But you know what? Whether you agree, and I'd like to know from you, do you agree with tariffs on steel and aluminum? I want to know that for later in the show. I want to talk about it because I'll tell you what, whether you agree or not, it's a campaign promise. I mean, the president said, a candidate Trump said he would build a wall. Candidate Trump also said NAFTA, TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that, you know, these are campaign promises. And we're going to be talking to a candidate for governor, Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle this morning. And, hey, you voted for Donald J. Trump, and these are promises he made. And we're going to go in depth. What do you think the aluminum, and that's all they had to talk about yesterday. are the tariffs on aluminum. But they said that it was reactionary, that Donald J. Trump is so upset in the White House. He's so upset with his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. He is so upset that his son-in-law only has partial security clearance. He is so upset. He's so angry. These sources say 20 or more from the Washington Post within the White House, a White House in chaos, they've gone back to that he got so upset he just said, I will put a tariff on steel. Just a reactionary thing for his base. But then, wait a minute. His base, the EU strikes back. That's what they said. Isn't that like Star Wars strikes back? The EU, okay? The European Union strikes back. Whoa, we're really afraid of that. They will put a tariff on bourbon, blue jeans, especially Levi's. I guess those ones made in Mexico, because if you have forgotten, we're here close to Blue Ridge, just up the road where Levi's went to Mexico some years ago. So, we don't understand that in North Georgia. Okay, you know, when you throw out Levi's, they're going to put a tariff on Levi's. And Harley Davidson motorcycles. Interesting. So, Georgia, let's go over a couple things. Lawmakers say that teachers' pensions need fixed bad, just not now. Georgia House backs a plan to spend an extra $109 million. Did you know there was an extra $109 million in the bank account? That is revenue that has come in over and above the projected revenue for 2017. So they're going to amend it up, and they've come up with a plan to spend the $109 million. Georgia legislature set for the final days. There's only 10 days left in session. Transit, Metro Atlanta transit expansion bills. 13 counties to raise hundreds of millions of dollars in sales tax for public transportation. Another transportation bill, 2018. Georgia Senate votes to allow adoption agencies to refuse gay couples. We'll talk about that one this morning, and we'll talk about that one. Georgia Senate votes to switch elections to paper ballots. That's still out there. And last but not least, deal signs the tax break, the Georgia income tax cut with no to Delta. You know, I keep hearing Delta over and over, okay? But really it is the jet fuel, aviation jet fuel tax exemption. It was the Delta tweet that got everything fired up, and we'll talk to Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle about that. And another thing I want to know when I get Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle on the line, what exactly, can you pinpoint exactly just a handful of things or just one or two in the Georgia 2018 legislative session that affects or benefits rural Georgia in a big way? I give you ahead of time, please don't give me another committee on broadband or another study for extending high-speed internet to North Georgia or to South Georgia. We have kindly heard that long enough, okay? HQ2, Amazon HQ2, all right? The transportation bill, okay, Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle is on the line, so hold just 1 minute. We'll be right back. Amanda, okay, we're back and we're live with Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle, Georgia Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle, also candidate for governor. Thank you for being with us, Lieutenant Governor Cagle. How are you this morning?
Well, Brian, thank you. It's good to be with you, and we're doing great this morning.
We have 10 days left in the session. Let me just bring up a couple things and get some clarification. Now, last week you actually had the news cycle of the week with Delta, NRA, and the tweets going back and forth. But let's clear it up for the audience and everybody listening. Basically, what you were talking about is that Delta singled out one particular group, and where a lot of the media focused in on NRA, and that you maybe pulled this tax exemption, fuel tax exemption, because of the NRA. Am I correct on that, or can you clear us up?
Yeah, well, I think you are. So let me set the stage. Obviously, Delta is an important asset here in the state, economic driver. It is the largest player in our state. But with that, during the boycott of NRA, and certainly after what took place in Florida, the basic plan was for them to jump in that boycott fight, and they pulled their benefit, their negotiated benefit, to NRA for their extension. And so they had a tax exemption on jet fuel here in the state, and as a result of that, that fuel exemption was pulled. And I just don't think it's right for corporations to target organizations based on their own views. And so we had to take a strong stance. And quite honestly, I think conservatives have to stand up and fight for our values. And today it may be the Second Amendment, but tomorrow it might be the First Amendment. And we need to make sure that we have a very strong in that area.
Okay, well, the governor signed that bill that's HB 918, the tax cut with the fuel aviation tax exemption stripped out of it, but he didn't sign it without making a couple comments. He didn't seem to be very happy at how this went down, and he said, "We are not elected to give late night talk show hosts fodder for their monologues or to act with a type of immaturity that has caused so many in our society to have a cynical viewpoint of politics," also saying we needed to ditch the election year annex. Are these election year annex? I mean, if your opponents or somebody out there is questioning exactly your direction here, how do you feel about what the governor came out and said concerning this?
Well, I totally disagree with any antics. I think people that have followed my career know that I am a person who makes decisions based on principle, and I'm not elected to represent one company. I'm elected to represent the entire population of the state, and make decisions that are predicated on the principles that you hold. And again, I do believe in the Second Amendment, and I believe very strongly that we have to ensure that big corporations are not pushing their will or their viewpoint in a way that ultimately is detrimental to society as a whole. So and listen, I have been taken on by the liberal media, along with a lot of liberals around the country, but that doesn't change my position. And this has nothing to do with antics, but everything to do with principle.
All right, let me ask you another question here. With this HB 918 without the aviation jet fuel, and I want to make a correction. Are we correct on that? We keep saying Delta, but it actually was an aviation jet fuel exemption that would benefit anyone buying aviation jet fuel. Is that correct?
That is correct. This was a complete elimination of sales tax on jet fuel.
It wasn't a target just to Delta. No.
That is correct.
Okay.
Delta is the largest beneficiary because obviously they have most planes, right?
Okay, now, obviously there's a lot of talk around Amazon HQ2. Even the governor says he will call a special session to the legislative session just to work out the details for possible tax exemptions or whatever needed for Amazon. But the Keep Faith in Adoption and Foster Care Act, and also the most recent situation here with Delta and the aviation jet fuel. Do you think those two have cost or may cause Amazon to bypass Georgia as far as one of the cities, Atlanta, as far as one of the cities they're considering?
No, I do not. First and foremost, I think those of us that are small or large corporations, and I've been a business owner for 32 years, both of small and large companies. What I can tell you is that, we as capitalists believe that, at the end of the day, it's not about social policy. It's about making sure that we are good stewards to our shareholders and giving them a return. It's a financial decision by which we pay. So, obviously, a large part of this discussion is that businesses need to focus on doing business and providing the services that their consumers need and want versus weighing in on social policy initiatives. So you look at Georgia, we're the #1 state to do business in. We're a low tax state, low regulatory environment, a tort system that's fair and just, and a workforce that is second to none. So if Amazon and any of the other companies that are looking at Georgia, obviously we are a conservative state, and we're going to continue to be a conservative state. But the fact still remains, if you want the best environment to do business, Georgia's that place. That we're going to continue to be the #1 place to do business, and I'm going to lead in that direction.
Well, let me ask you a question, and I know you have to go, but with two recent bills. SB 386, which allows 13 counties to raise hundreds of millions of dollars as sales taxes for public transportation. House Bill 930 would do the same thing. Didn't we just do a transportation bill, HB 170, that would raise almost $1 billion? Some critics say that these transportation bills are put in place to show Amazon or to what are these transportation bills? Why are these necessary? These two bills right now?
Well, first of all, let me be very clear. I'm not in favor of raising taxes, and certainly in the bills that you just referred to, there would be a tax increase component to that, and I am not in favor of that, and I've been very clear to that point. The issue of transportation, do we have a real issue? Absolutely, but we have resources now that we haven't had before to deploy, and I think it's a function of, one, as it pertains to transit, there needs to be a new governance structure that is built around that to build the consensus to expand that. There has to be an assessment that is done to make sure that we're not only giving the service where it's needed, but we're giving the consumers what it is that they're willing to pay for. And when it comes to our infrastructure, we have to look at it in a strategic way, particularly in a 10-year strategic plan, putting the resources where they're needed the most in a very strategic way. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I don't think that just putting taxes on Uber and putting taxes on the airport fundamentally is going to get us where we need to be. It's really a function of governance as well as a strategic plan.
Well, in addition, HB 930 would impose a 50-cent fee on all taxi rides. Let me ask this last question, and I know you have to go. We only had 10 minutes. This is a big legislative session with this transportation bill and so many things that have gone on. Give me one solid, maybe one or two solid things in the 2018 session that benefit rural Georgia, that goes outside of the circle of the 13 counties and benefits rural Georgia, that is going to be a takeaway for us up here in North Georgia and South Georgia.
Well, first of all, I think that the broadband issue is probably the biggest. We're no longer bound by bricks and mortar. We can do business anywhere in the world from any corner of our state if we have a reliable access to broadband. And so I have a bill that Senator Gooch is carrying for me in particular that not only deals with access but also reliability. Reliability may be just as important as access many times. And in order for the entrepreneurs, the small business owners to continue to thrive and be successful, I think that certainly will be a critical piece. The other thing that I will just say is that we do have a real opioid crisis issue across the state as well, and really, for that matter, across the nation. And I have a bill this year that really does help on the safe families component that allows family members or relatives or close friends or your church to be able to step in to help in time of need and crisis as it pertains to those individuals getting the assistance that they need, having someone to take care of their kids during that time, opposed to just turning over to a government-run DFACS system. So this is a very pro-family initiative that I think can really be helpful in a wraparound component. So you've got that. You also have the rural health care issue. As you know, you're dealing with a hospital in your community that we need to get solved. It's not about more money. It's about making sure that hospitals have a financial model that is sustainable going forward. And so we're going to be working on that. I have a big initiative around an innovation center and other ways in which we provide the healthcare delivery system that we need in Georgia, not necessarily what California.
Well, I appreciate you coming on this morning. I know you have to get the session started. I know you have to get the session started, and we apologize for some feedback that we've had on the phone, but it has come through pretty clear. We apologize for that. And Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle, I know we got 10 days left, but you're welcome back anytime. And as soon as session's over, we want to invite you to come into the studio and sit down with us for an extended interview and visit.
Would love to do that, and let's not forget it's a $5.7 billion tax cut that we ushered in. There's a lot to celebrate, and I think this is going to be a great session. Look forward to being with you real soon.
Thank you very much. You have a nice day, sir.
You too.
I don't know why they had such bad feedback, Amanda, they were saying on the phone, and I had it too, but I mean, I was able to make out what he was telling me, so I don't know what that may have been. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. North Georgia's only live online morning show. And we'll be back. We're going to take a brief break, and we're going to come back and break down some of the things going on in the state, some of the things Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle spoke about this morning. Take us a break, Amanda.